The New Mexico Tribal Entrepreneurship Program, which UNM Rainforest Innovations was awarded this year from the EDA ARPA, is a really exciting program. And this panel will talk about that as well as expand based on their own experiences. But let me just mention a little bit about the Tribal Entrepreneurship Program. It's designed to create broader opportunity through entrepreneurship in tribal and coal impacted communities by identifying needs and barriers that entrepreneurs in each unique community face and develop action-based solutions to help overcome those barriers and meet those needs. The program builds on a current grant that we have called the Rainforest University Center, which has a robust library of entrepreneurial technical training videos, opportunities to attend mentoring office hours from a pool of multiple mentors, the opportunity to earn a certificate in entrepreneurial capabilities, an e-commerce course, and an access to Rainforest Innovations network of valuable resource providers. A key component of the program are the tribal liaisons, who are experienced entrepreneurs in their own right, and they're also resource providers who live and work in the tribal communities that the program serves. One of those tribal liaisons will be on this panel. They serve as boots on the ground guides, helping to inspire and connect local entrepreneurs to available programs and resources. They conduct interviews and help those individuals complete an assessment of what their needs are and how to reach their business goals. So UNM Rainforest Innovations has hired 5 liaisons to date to help us work around the state to help support our tribal entrepreneurs. We have a project manager, Cecilia Pacheco is our project manager who oversees this grant. And we're also building a library of videos and other resources that will assist. So one thing I would like to note is that in addition to the work with our tribal communities, it's also enabled us to form partnerships, a term we've heard about a lot today, and it's really critical to building our entrepreneurial ecosystem. We've formed partnerships with New Mexico Community Capital, Roanhorse Consulting, Southwest Native Assets Coalition, UNM Health Sciences Center Heroes Program, Right to Start, UNM American Indian Student Services, UNM Taos Hive, and the Northwest New Mexico COG. So there are many, many, many groups that are partnered with us in this grant. So I want to thank all of you. And with that, I'll turn it over to Sandra Begay and this panel.
I'm Sandra Begay. I have several roles, but first of all, I'm a Native woman engineer. I've worked at Sandia National Labs for 30 years. I was born into a family of a Navajo tribal leader, and my mom was a public health nurse. So service to the community was an aspect that I was born with. And I've been lucky enough to serve as a UNM Board of Regents through the governor's appointment for first service of 6 years, and now this current tenure of 4 years. I serve as the chair of the board for the Rainforest Innovations, and I gladly work with Lisa. I'm glad to be one of the lead consultants and mentors for this program, along with Dr. Richard Uwarki, who is also on the Rainforest board. He's in charge of the Tamaya Ventures Economic Development Group for Santa Ana Pueblo, and he could not be with us today. But I'm very glad that online I believe we have Angelo, McHorse, owner of the Bison Star Naturals. So we'll give him a chance for answering questions virtually. But in our presence today, we have Liz Gamboa, who is the director of New Mexico Community Capital. Both of these women I've known of for quite some time virtually and have reputation. So I'm very pleased to be able to be with them in person today, and they have stellar reputations. And I think that it's important for UNM as an institution to acknowledge our community leaders in the work that they do. We're also honored to have Vanessa Roanhorse, who's the CEO of Roanhorse Consulting. Again, Vanessa, I've known online many a meeting, but it's good to see her in person. It is wonderful to have this group here. They have quite a bit of information to share. Because I may have a coughing spasm, I'm just going to ask a question and let them talk. First, we'll start with you, Liz. And I'm hoping these are a little bit softball questions. So if you want to do hardball, you'll have to come up to the mic later. But remember, I'm very protective. Yes, I'm very protective of Native women. So just forewarned. Please, Liz, if you could, please give us some examples of tribal businesses that are starting and growing to give us some perspective.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Really happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. Super thrilled to be presenting with Vanessa Roanhorse, my co-conspirator with a lot of projects, who's out and about, and very nice to meet you in person for sure. So, I work at New Mexico Community Capital. We're just down the street here on 3rd and Gold in this iconic Occidental life insurance building. It's amazing. We've been there for about 1.5 years, or maybe it's reaching 2 years now, losing track of time. And we've run the Native Entrepreneur in Residence program. So that was a 6-month accelerator incubator program, stipend, modeled after Y Combinator's model. That was super successful, and we're still looking for funding for that because it's a lift, right? So I'm going to just bring forward a couple of people from that program, which was funded by the Administration for Native Americans, federal program, and that is Tudor Montague, who heads up Spirit Mountain Roasting Company. So it's a coffee company. He is Fort Yuma Ketchon. So he started with a program. He didn't have a building, had one small roaster, had a beautiful idea, had been an environmentalist and worked for an environmental consulting firm. And he decided, took his passion, love of coffee, wanted to produce it, wanted to provide jobs on his tribe. So he opened the Spirit Mountain Roasting Company coffee place, coffee bean company. And so he went through the NEAR program. And what he did was he brought in a lot of the issues that are of concern to him, right? Compostable bags. He sources from small growers in Central America and in Mexico, and maybe closer to the border. He hires from the tribe and is also planning on opening a cafe on his tribe and hiring people from there as well, just thinking about jobs, right, and supporting other people. He's teaching people how to do this. He is a representative of what a successful company can look like, successfully using, sustainable business methods, right, and practices. So really proud of him. He's featured we have a website called, little plug, indigexchange.com. So that is really a landing page for all of the people that have gone through the program, and we feature their products on this site. So at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of people just did in-person sales. So this was really a place for them to feature their products, to give them training about negotiating with wholesalers, doing invoices, and really just selling, right, that they didn't have to do on this scale. So he's one of the sellers there. And he represents something that is regenerative. So he comes, he can mentor, he can present at various mentoring gatherings that we have. Yeah, we're really thrilled for his success. And he also works with one of our collaborative partners, Native Community Capital. And when he was looking for lending, that's the first place he went. It's a Native CDFI. So that's one. I'm not sure. Start with one? Okay, sounds good.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Vanessa Roanhorse. I am a Diné citizen from the Navajo Nation, but I live here on Tiwa lands in Albuquerque. As Liz was talking about sort of the story and the history of Spirit Mountain, it really resonates for me and something I'd like to articulate around what Native businesses are doing. First, Native entrepreneurs move seamlessly between tribal, rural, and urban spaces. So we are from our tribes and citizens, but no, you have a Native business probably wherever you are. And not only are where they are, they're also actively returning back to their communities and reinvesting in some capacity, whether it's hiring local, whether it's setting up a shop, and often are building baseline economies in places that we often don't see enough jobs. So I just wanted to share that we talk about Native entrepreneurs. Yes, they are building incredible businesses, and there are many sectors. We see a lot of them in obviously the agriculture and food sector for many reasons, but as Indigenous people, our connection to the land and growing food and stewarding is just part of who we are. But we also see a lot of our community members building arts businesses. And in the artist space, we see so much of what New Mexico is about. Lisa and I were just talking about some of the most important sectors, arts being one of them. But in all of this, they're moving quickly and seamlessly across this landscape. And so when I think about Spirit Mountain, I think about some of the other entrepreneurs that we're seeing. So in my other hat I get to wear beyond Roanhorse Consulting is Native Women Lead. So if you don't know, we have our big annual retreat at the end of this week. I have to plug it. It's a huge deal. It's the first time we're going to bring over 150 Indigenous women across Turtle Island. We have women coming from Mexico, from Canada, and across the United States to here, our lands in New Mexico. So I just want to say that's pretty cool. But you're going to see a lot of those entrepreneurs, and they're there building. So for one example we have, that's I think an emerging sector for us, and something that our community has always been working towards is mental health. So through Native Women Lead, we have a character-based lending program where we offered up to $50,000 in non-using the underwriting of the 5 C's of credit to provide $50,000 loans with loan forgiveness baked in to our network. One of them is Jordana Saunders, who has her company called the Trauma Recovery Services of Arizona. And one of the things that she's doing is she is creating a mental health service, particularly serving rural tribal spaces, where they're able to provide it virtually, online, over the phone, and in person. And we're seeing that need, that escalation for not only that type of mental health support for our community members, but I think after the pandemic, we're seeing the need for it for all of us. So when we think about Native entrepreneurs, they're in every sector. We just have to look for them.
Thank you so much. Do we have Angelo online?
Well, awesome. I am just going to go ahead and plug Bison Star Naturals, which I am the owner, operator.
As you should.
Along with my wife, Jacqueline McHorse. And our story is a proud story of working from the ground up to develop Bison Star Naturals, to going from a basic soap bar company to developing products that are scalable so we can do business in a large scale to become a national brand. And so we started our company back in 2018. And over the last 4.5 years, we've been diligently bootstrapping and, starting at little small local farmers markets, arts and crafts fairs, moving up to big powwows, and then finally scaling to do like trade fairs. Currently, I'm sitting in Funner, California at the Harrah's Southern California Resort, and I am here trying to expand our network at the IENTA conference, which is a national tourism conference. And we're really excited, and we're out here seeking wholesale partners, and we're offering gift fulfillment services. And so we're super proud to have started from the ground up from the home community of Taos Pueblo. And I am really excited that I can serve as an example and also share my knowledge of the pathway to go from being a retail sales business to actually scaling up to do wholesale business and move beyond the boundaries of our reservation. But one of the things that I'm very proud of is that being and establishing our workshop on our homeland of Taos Pueblo is that we are creating opportunity at home so we can employ our tribal members so they don't have to seek career paths or opportunities outside of our reservation boundaries, because I'm thankful and I'm very proud to say that Taos Pueblo still has its language, its religion, and its cultural ceremonies still intact. And it's very important for me and was a foundational belief that I wanted to come home, establish at home, so that way we could prevent brain drain from our community, because that's something that a lot of tribal communities suffer from, is losing their young people and their talent that seeking career paths and opportunities outside tribal land. So we're located 726 Veterans Highway, right next to the Taos Pueblo Casino. And, you know, I am very thankful for a lot of the examples that are out there. There's strong matriarch leaders that are out there, you know, showing tribal people and tribal youth how to organize and run business. I'm very fortunate to have worked with Liz Gamboa to present to her NAIR classroom, talking about tribal entrepreneurship and growing a small business. And, you know, we have grand ambitions of becoming like the next Burt's Bees, but from Indian country. And so we want to become a national brand, and we're very proud to keep growing and keep expanding. And I'm so honored to be on this panel and definitely sharing our experiences of growing a business. And so I think that one of the biggest things of value that I can bring to the table is a good example, just like Tutor, of being on business that goes from like selling a table at different arts and crafts fairs to actually scaling up to do wholesale business to impact and to penetrate the national market. And so Bison Star Naturals is a body care company. We're well known for our lotions, our liquid soap, and lip balms. And so please feel free to see our story in real time on any and all social media platforms. And our handle is at Bison Star. And you could also visit us at bisonstarnaturals.com too to learn more information. And so thank you for having me here. I'm very honored, and I'm taking some time away from the table to join you guys here for this panel. So thank you for the opportunity again.
Thank you, Angelo. I know business is still rolling, but you're taking a break to talk to us today. Playing off of what Angelo described in his Bison Star Naturals, maybe Liz and Vanessa, can you expand on some other unique features that you have seen for starting businesses on tribal lands?
Yeah, I think that, let's see, unique features. I heard, so I was listening in this morning, and I heard the panelists discussing micro grants or micro lending, and I can't really speak to that enough, how important it is to these small businesses to have seed funding, right? $1,000, $1,500, $2,000. It really could be enough for them to buy the inventory, make the things, buy the machine they need, and get them over the hump. Next best thing will be relationship-based lending, right? That Native Women Lead modeled. Access to capital is still a real issue. And with this large award we won through the Equality Can't Wait Challenge, that was the cornerstone. And we built the program and each strategy table around that. So I think that we were just at Isleta del Sur Pueblo this weekend in El Paso, right? One of the 20 pueblos. And people are still, right? We are part of New Senda's co-op capital program, and we still have some funds available for lending to entrepreneurs. 5% fixed rate, really good deal, relationship-based lending. It's a way for them to rebuild their credit if they need to, or just start the process slowly, right? So they're building up, they're kind of flexing their muscles a little bit, they're figuring out how it all works. But people still don't want to borrow money. They dislike the industry, the process, the people lending the money. And there are very few banks, organizations that will give them the kind of interest rate that we are, just to get them started so they can trust in that. Oh, now I can see Angelo. Hey, Angelo. So, yeah, and so one of the ways that entrepreneurs also receive funding is through friends and family, right? That's the number one thing. And these folks don't have that base, right? To go back and say, hey, uncle, hey, can I borrow, however many thousands of dollars, which is so amazing, especially in Angelo's case, right? That they bootstrapped that business and it is thriving, right? And Angelo and his wife are a great model here. So I would say probably one of the biggest things to overcome, right, is just to find that seed capital for them and the seed funds and getting their business going.
Yeah, Liz is absolutely right. I mean, I think the capital piece is really possible. We talk a lot about how much money is moving. I think where we're challenged is we're not willing to take risk and take smaller returns on the rate back to ourselves to be able to create more patient pathways for folks to access capital. The other piece for me is that when we think about where particularly tribal-based businesses, is that oftentimes our own tribes don't have meaningful ways for them to access capital. There isn't a lot of grant programs. There isn't probably a tribal bank or a lending institution that understands their unique issues that they're facing. While we have native CDFIs, we don't have enough in New Mexico. And the CDFIs we have that are native CDFIs in New Mexico aren't doing small business lending. If they are doing small business lending, they're doing it in the same way that traditional banks are doing it, which is still prohibitive for 83% of all entrepreneurs in the United States. And so I think the opportunity off tribal lands is for us to imagine new ways in which the CDFI as an entity could take on more risk, could seek more flexible capital so that it isn't bound by conservative return on the interest, as well as creative underwriting. Let's just be honest, we all need some creative underwriting. The other thing I think tribal entrepreneurs are facing, or native-based entrepreneurs are facing, is too often our tribes aren't focusing on small business technical assistance and wraparound resource supports. Native Women Lead did a report for Indian Affairs recently, and one of the things they found is of the 23 federally recognized tribes in the state of New Mexico, the only nation that actually has a small business entrepreneur office is the Navajo Nation. And that's a serious challenge. And it's not at the fault of our tribal or Pueblo nations. It's the fact that so much of the resources we get is from federal funds, and also the ability to actually create a local ecosystem and network, which is why we have organizations like New Mexico Community Capital, Change Labs, Native Women Lead. These are organizations that are working collectively across an ecosystem we've developed to provide those missing gaps in services. But I do know there's deep opportunity and desire from our tribal leaders to create meaningful, equitable pathways to entrepreneurship for our people, because we want them to stay. We want them to be home with us. The other piece for it is that in order for us to get there, we have to also acknowledge that the unique relationship tribal nations have to the federal government is special. We are sovereign nations. So we have to understand, as a community and a state that has resources, how do we create opportunities still celebrating, acknowledging sovereignty, and still celebrating, acknowledging that our native nations in New Mexico are one of our strongest, and we do so much. So what this conference is and this panel, I think, is a small illustration of what's possible.
Thank you, Angelo. Maybe on that point, do you have other barriers that you've been trying to break down to make your business successful?
So if I may, I would just like to talk about some unique features of starting business on tribal lands, because one of the great things about starting a business in your own community on your own tribal land is that you do, at least at Taos Pueblo, for us as Bison Star, we do get support from our tribal leadership, and we do get support in the sense of us being able to collaborate with our tribal programming. And it's a very beautiful thing when you can put yourself out there in the world and your tribal programming wants to support you by buying gifts for their, employees, and then also in a meaningful way partnering with, like in our case, the director of Taos Pueblo Tourism, who is also a voice for us. And we can also develop new tools and resources, technology for our tribe. And one of the things that I'm very proud of with partnering with the Taos Pueblo Tourism and Taos Pueblo Tribal Government is that we're creating like a seal. So we've created a MOU with our tribe, and we've using the Taos Pueblo seal of approval for Taos Pueblo authentic products. And I think that's a great thing. That is a great endorsement from a tribe for small business. So in that respect, we are definitely being embraced by our tribe, and we're also developing new ways to create these relationships that give small businesses endorsements. So artisans and future small business owners, because we can serve as an example and be able to show like how this endorsement can get us into bigger to do bigger business. Because if you have that endorsement, everybody always wonders, okay, well, where are you from? What's your tribe? And of course, it's hard to kind of prove that. And, out there's a lot of people who aren't from tribal land that utilize tribal land as a marketing scheme. So I'm very thankful to be able to create these partnerships and to be supported by my tribal community in my entrepreneurial endeavor. And so moving on to the next question about what are some of the barriers to break down, it's exactly what these ladies are talking about on the stage, which is funding. Funding is one of the hardest things to come across when it comes to finding a good lender who offers a fair interest rate, because as you know, like the programming that these ladies are operating, it's definitely beneficial to all starting entrepreneurs. My famous tagline is that we started Bison Star with $1,600 and a newborn baby. And of course, that was our own money that we had saved. And just like Liz said, that seed funding allowed us to buy all of our materials to keep on growing our business. And of course, we've rolled over all of our revenues back into the business. We didn't pay ourselves for 4 years while we were building this business. And that's the bootstrapping part, along with living underneath our means to be able to save enough money to build our workshop in our own homeland. And so definitely finding seed funding or finding any kind of like large business partnerships where there's transactions that are in the larger transactions rather than just smaller retail transactions, those like finding big wholesale partnerships is another barrier to entry for a lot of businesses, because it takes the same amount of energy to sell to a large order to a wholesale partner as it does to sell somebody one single item or piece of art or whatever. And so funding is definitely one of the barriers that is a tough one, but we've resisted from taking out any loans for that reason. We just kind of try to grow organically, do the slow and steady growth. But I think that another barrier for small businesses is also just the networking. Networking is so important. It is really true that the old adage about not what you know, but who you know. And I think that, I'm so very thankful for New Mexico Community Capital, Native Women Lead, and even like the Regional Development Corporation for bringing all us young entrepreneurs together to be able to provide these crucial trainings, everything from bookkeeping and accounting to like learning how to do your taxes, and even basic, knowledge of incorporating and how to climb that incorporation ladder to go from a sole proprietor with an LLC to an S Corp to eventually, if you really want to do big business, become a C Corp. And, also learning about all the tax benefits to each one of those different levels of incorporation. So there's a lot of different barriers to entry for small business. But what I'm very thankful for is that us collectively here, all the heads in this room, have all the resources and tools for our young tribal entrepreneurs to get ahead in all those respects and to get the trainings and the knowledge and information to move forward in their entrepreneurial process. Because what I also know too is it's tough to move from the artisan style of business where you just have a table out and you're selling your wares at any market directly where you're at in a retail fashion. And of course, a lot of us grew up just doing that and then putting the money underneath the mattress, you know what I mean, rather than trying to take it to the next level, to deposit it into a bank account to demonstrate your revenues, which then allows you to access this loans and capital that's out there. So, you know, the transition from artisan all the way up to a full-fledged incorporation, you know, that's definitely a barrier to entry for a lot of small businesses. And, you know, it's okay though, because, you know, our peoples have done that forever. And so there, it's not bad to stay at that level. That's a way of life that it's acceptable and totally awesome and great. But also there is opportunity and trainings out there to help break people out of their home communities and tap into larger marketplaces. So, you know, I'm very thankful that, you know, these resources are out there and being advertised, and that there's a lot of young entrepreneurs and existing entrepreneurs taking advantage of all these programs. So, you know, those are just a few of the little barriers to entry that young entrepreneurs have to break through. And what I find is that there's even like the, you know, this UNM Rainforest Innovations Tribal Liaison Program is the perfect type of program to give these young entrepreneurs and existing entrepreneurs, no matter what level of business they're at, the little push, the little guidance, the little encouragement, because a lot of the times I'm finding that's just what our young entrepreneurs need is, you know, to have their eyes open to the resources out there, and then also their eyes open to the pathways to access these resources, because they're all available. And every one of us in this room is working hard to make all those accessible and available. So that's my perspective on barriers to entry.
Thank you, Angelo. And I didn't pay him to do that, promote a program. But I will be looking at the product online. Just so you know, I think each of us has our own buying power. In my work, when we do any type of work, we try to look at small minority women-owned businesses to support. And when I do any travel, I try to do buy Indian. I try to eat at Indian restaurants, Native American hotels, and because I'm going to expend those dollars anyway to get to my business travel. But if I can connect to Native American and their businesses, more power to them because of the work that I do. So think about that. That's another avenue. The other thing I'll comment is the same adage is not what you know, but who you know. I think that's an important piece of right to start. We all have a right to get into situations where we meet people to have conversations, and today's a great venue to begin those conversations. And now you know of several Indian businesses. I wanted to add, do you have any other, maybe some more action-oriented recommendations you'd have to support Native businesses?
Let's see, action-oriented. I guess I will just say that the one-to-one, for us, the one-to-one cohort model is super helpful. And being also, so not one-to-one cohort model, sorry, having that in addition to a cohort, right? Just like Angelo said, like some of these entrepreneurs are rural, right? So they're tribal, they're maybe not around as many entrepreneurs. So that has been really helpful for people to go through a model together, and having one-to-one. We're always looking for good mentors for us. So I guess the actionable piece is, you know, just finding those. And if you're truly interested in helping Native entrepreneurs, right? You have a skill you want to bring in, please reach out to us, to Native Women Lead, et cetera. Actually, Angelo as well in the UNM program. Let's see, actionable. Can I just bring in the micro grant again? So we did something at the Salado del Sur Pueblo that was really great, right? So we made these kind of right on the spot, these little NFCs, right? So it's just a little keychain thing, fob, and it led to a page that had if they had one, a LinkedIn, their website, their social media, how to contact. They thought it was the coolest thing, right? So supporting, right, opening, maybe it's connecting with CNM. We do that now with our technical project manager, but just kind of broadening the, you know, the scope of what's needed for Native entrepreneurship. It isn't just the model, the one-on-one, but there are other things like the tech piece. And we also supply people with hardware, right? Laptops with everyone that goes through our classes, a business toolkit and laptops. So we're not just teaching them, we're actually giving them the physical things that they can take home and use. And it's been super helpful for them.
I think the actionable stuff, you definitely want to take a look at NMCC, Native Women Lead, and the UNM Tribal Liaison Program, because they are boots on the ground. I feel like, when I first started my journey into entrepreneurship, my challenge is I didn't find resources that understood my journey as an Indigenous person, but also my journey on why I was making a company, which really didn't start because I wanted to make a lot of money. I did it because I wanted to do something for my people. And that was like where I began this conversation with myself. And I needed to find other Native entrepreneurs. I mean, it's the best way to see what's possible is when you can see yourself and somebody else doing what you want to do, but also the ability to talk about the unique challenges we face as Indigenous people, and as well for me as a Navajo person. And so I think the actionable opportunity here is that we have a rich ecosystem of Native-led organizations serving Native entrepreneurs, founders, through a variety of ways. And it isn't just entrepreneurial support organizations, to use the technical term. It's literally folks like Angelo, who, beyond him being a tribal liaison for UNM, would be out there mentoring and coaching naturally. We have these leaders across our state who are supporting, coaching, and mentoring, whether it's through dances, cooking, whether it's through their jobs and the side hustles that they have. I think my call to action is we're here. We've always been here. So where do you go from here to find them? How do you think about right relationship and what it means to partner with Indigenous people and entrepreneurs to get them the resources they need? But also, you should start where you live. I spend so much time talking to folks who are looking for a one-stop shop where they can resolve all these challenges. But the reality is entrepreneurship for me is always going to be cultural, place-based, and nuanced. So if we can start from that place, my action to you all is, how do you start to build that relationship with Native entrepreneurs, Native-led organizations, and Native founders? You probably know some folks, and we start there. And then I would say reach out to these Native-led organizations who have been here for a very long time, who have been doing that hard work, because I bet you what, they're looking for partnership. They have the relationships. They know who to invest in. Ask them.
Thank you. I wanted to leave a little bit of time for some audience questions. And we have the mic up in the front. We've got about 5 minutes or so to answer some questions. Don't be shy. People say, I didn't even know there was Native Americans still in this country, and I just have to laugh. It's like, you got one right in front of you. It's silly, but I travel across the country and work with different tribes across the United States, but still that unknown part of underrepresented minorities sometimes is still silent. And I think today's part of our panel is to say we are visible. There are some viable businesses there. There's also a lot of bigger businesses that we haven't featured that have status with the federal government to get certain contracts, which could be called 8As. And also there's tribal associated enterprises that do big business with the US government. Some bigger examples would be in Alaska, where Native Alaskan corporations are built as for-profit entities, not as a government. So they're able to do federal contracting, and even at Kirtland Air Force Base, there are at least 2 or 3 Native Alaskan companies that do business with the Air Force. So we're not talking just about, today we're talking about smaller businesses, but there's also very, very large businesses out there that are really supported by the tribes or nations. You could come up to the microphone. Thank you.
So I'd like you to predict, if we had tribal lending all across the tribes in the United States, what kind of increase in economic activity could we see with that kind of an investment? A small investment leading to what kind of?
I mean, sorry. So I don't know, to be honest, but I will say this statistic. In 2017, Indigenous women in the United States were $11 billion community. So $11 billion Indigenous women companies were generating. See, it's 2022, 5 years ago. We've only seen an increase of Native women opening more businesses. So we actually talk about the kind of capital they could get. I mean, if they're doing 11 billion right now with actually no direct meaningful resource and support systems with access to the kind of capital they need, and they're still $11 billion, that's something to take a pause. If we actually gave them the capital they needed, unfettered, trillions. That's just me. I mean, why not?
I think it also normalizes, it could normalize, right, lending on tribes. And so if there is some kind of structure to it, I think more people would use it, right? They can come in and ask questions like 3 different times and then finally yes. So, you know, you have lenders that come in. I'm very interested to hear what Angelo has to say, though, as someone who hasn't borrowed money, right? Who hasn't done that. Like, what would it take, right, to get to the next point? But I know that just having that visibility, and that's something that we went for an economic opportunity grant, right? And our idea was to put a business and lending office on each pueblo that was connected. All of them had the same resources. They all had a Jamboard, an electronic whiteboard. They had the same business tools that were ready. They had a mentor there. And I think that kind of structure is needed here in New Mexico.
Angelo, do you have a comment?
I do have a comment, and so please let me know if I'm not directly answering the question, but I do believe that like structured loans might be a really good way to start loaning money. So like loaning money with a focus, you know what I mean? So like, let's just say that if somebody, because I mean, it's really easy to get, like, I've heard it's easier to get like $200,000 than it is to get $5,000 if you just need to like build a website, you know what I mean? Or so I guess kind of having direct structured loans, like baskets of loans that people can apply to for specific needs, like having a manufacturing loan, having a brick and mortar loan, having a website building loan, having a social media marketing or marketing campaign loan. Maybe if there was like structured loan programs, so that way you also didn't have entrepreneurs being scared of taking this huge chunk of money and not knowing whether they're going to be able to get a good ROI on that. Whereas if you had a structured loan, you could spread out loans to more people for specific reasons, and you have actually like measurable results and a good amount of money to execute those kind of endeavors, whether, you know, whatever kind of help that these small businesses need. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but in my mind, the reason that we haven't taken out any loans is just because I've seen a lot of peers and folks be able to get huge grants or be able to take out these big loans, but because they don't have the training, knowledge, resource, or focused spending that they need to get a good ROI on that loan, they end up blowing all their money on frilly things for their tables, or like, you know, big banners they don't really need to tell the story, or like even traveling and spending all this money on food and XYZ, right? Because everybody is very good at spending money, but I think that people really need to get better at making money before they even think about taking out these kind of big loans. But if there was little smaller structured focus loans, maybe that might be a little more effective. So that way, if there's a few entrepreneurs or people out there who are taking out these loans, executing the goal that they set out with the money that they're doing, and then they pay it back, they might qualify for a bigger loan and a bigger loan. So you can kind of work your way up and learn how to get better at making money and actually leveraging that loan for a good purpose to get a good ROI, rather than just getting a huge chunk of money without no training and just spending it all on whatever besides a focused goal.
Just a comment. I have a funny comment I give to some of my interns, that I have to say it's okay to make money, because a lot of that, they're so based in their home communities and the world that they were brought up to conserve and to be efficient, that they they were worried about making money. And I said, that's why you're going to school. And we want you to, have money once you go to school, because at some point, maybe you're going to help your family, your community, because of what you earn. So it's okay to make money, and it's okay to pay taxes. I have to be very clear with them that there's a notion that they've grown up with is you always want to get a refund, and it's like, well, you actually want to be known for paying taxes because that means you made money, and it's okay to make money. And I have to keep repeating that to them because it's something that they're taught. You're not supposed to, not supposed to get rich. I'm not saying get rich. I said, make some money and do some good things with it. Do you have any final remarks from Vanessa and Liz?
I guess I'll just double down on what Angelo said, and that is that this circle of support is critical in Native communities, right? It isn't just dumping money or awarding money or giving money, sorry. It's about supporting them in their journey, right? It is the technical assistance programs. It is hiring relatable, people for them to talk to, they feel safe with, they feel comfortable with. It is having a cohort to move together with. It is having, Native Women Lead does this Transformation Thursday and Tech Tuesday. So having continuous programming, right, that they can drop in and out of. And I think that exists, right? And I think it was in the comments, like SCORE has things, West has things. I mean, there's a lot out there. And I used to get this great email from SCORE that just had a list of all the links and everything going on. I don't know if they still do that, but it's super helpful, right? So just having a larger ecosystem to support these entrepreneurs is really important.
The only thing I'd add is we invite anyone to come and learn about the Futures Indigenous Women, which is a partnership between Native Women Lead, New Mexico Community Capital, and Roanhorse Consulting, where we are pairing technical assistance, mentorship, coaching, trauma of money, capital, apprenticeship building, and the last one is bringing an investor circle in. Because what we're trying to do is provide all of those resources so that we can support these entrepreneurs, but also what we're trying to demonstrate is not only an investability of Indigenous women, but that Indigenous women also need to be in charge of decision-making around how funding is deployed.
Angelo, a couple of closing words?
Sure. I think this is going to be great. I appreciate all the knowledge and information that's coming out of this panel here. And I guess one of the last things I would like to say is that, everybody has the ability to vote with their dollar. So like as the general public or as business leaders or as community leaders, it's very important to shop with your local Native businesses. Also be on the lookout for any kind of networking connections, like how we're all saying, be kind of look out for your little brothers and sisters to make sure that they have the right connections. So that way, keep an ear out and an eye out for all to be able to connect the dots and to guide our young entrepreneurs to the exact resources that they're looking for and they need. But then also most importantly, like I'm saying, you vote with your dollar. So, whatever you buy is like where you're putting your money. So if you buy fast food, well, you're voting for fast food and like corporations. But if you go to like, the Pueblo Cultural Center Cafe, you're voting to, for Native food. And like, if you go and eat at Chef Naranjo's, restaurant, you're voting for that. So if you're buying Bison Star Naturals, you're not voting for Dove, you know what I mean? And so like, I'm just, letting you guys know that you vote with your dollar. And not only that, but it's also good to just listen and look out for resources to connect all your young entrepreneurs in the community, because it really means a lot once you get like executive directors buying your stuff, or if you get, tribal councilmen, tribal government, any community leaders, because that is like an endorsement. Your dollar is an endorsement, your dollar is a vote. So don't forget to buy local, buy Native, buy Indigenous, buy all the young people and existing businesses that you see. Christmas is coming up, so make sure to go to the matriarch market that's in October that Native Women Lead is putting on during the retreat. I know there's going to be a lot of awesome women creators, and there's going to be a few businesses from Taos Pueblo who are going to be there, including Shandine Suazo's Fry Bread Cosmetics, and then also Addie Lucero. who has Dancing Butterfly Naturals is going to be there too. So, you know, we have some ladies from Taos Pueblo that are going to be there as well, but definitely go to the Matriarch Marketplace to shop for your holiday needs.
Thank you so much, and thank you to all the panelists.